Morning, Dan.
Good morning.
He's got his wake up coffee along.
Yeah, he's good.
And,
Gonna handle this 9:30 meeting here.
yeah. Airport. Expansion. Just Prospect Seeds. Southwest Water. Oh. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be screaming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. He's gone.
Yeah, I quit.
That's a different thing.
Write up a story on this one, right?
Yeah, when he comes back, then he'll be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ansey said you were no longer part of it.
Right?
Right away.
Just gotta stir the pot, Wayne.
Oh, yeah. With a little help.
What page is it?
To stir the pot?
Administrator.
Oh, yeah.
Flip through all this.
You know, it's almost like, I want to see, we need somebody to, it's a cauldron thing.
Yep, yeah. Gotta have some Halloween stuff going on.
Oh, I can flip through it if that's what you're doing.
Page more.
This just doesn't.
I know, I got here, I'm like, oh my lord.
All right, 9:30, I'll call this special meeting of the Mercer County Commission to order. The only thing we have on the agenda for this is budget approval.
As requested, there was the updates to the worksheet that we've been referencing during this budget process, to the governing board, the, director of tax equalization budget, and then the adjustments in the county road with the additions of the revenues that we decided on. And then also the adjustments that we made to aid to secondary and unorganized roads to bring those mills even across the board. There was also
we do a motion to approve the agenda, we do that every other time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just didn't know if we had, if that was like part of that we had to do or not.
You wanna make that motion?
I make a motion to approve our agenda.
Okay, motion by Liza to approve the agenda, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Wayne. Any discussion? Seeing none, Liza,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Marv,
Aye.
I'll vote aye, that motion passes. Any questions, comments, concerns relating to the budget?
I have concerns, but I think they can, I'll just make a statement when it comes time for discussion. I don't see any, I looked at some numbers that,
Want to put your mic down there? There you go.
sorry about that. If the public didn't hear me, I said I do have some comments, but I can save those to discussion time after we hear a motion. I did visit a little bit with Samantha this morning, and I saw that her numbers were all, the ones that we talked about, looked like they were all in there, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so. Samantha, I just got a little question. I see on, anyhow, one of these worksheets, Southwest Water, was, at one time, did we have to pay in?
one time we did levy, yeah.
What was that on?
I reached out to Ladina, she's the,
Direct? or-
yeah, director over there, she said that we no longer, I think we stopped that last year, because we didn't levy last year either.
Okay, okay.
I'm sorry,
Didn't levy on what?
That was,
Southwest Water.
Southwest Water, like a mill or something would
Yeah, it was
go.
1 mil, I believe, and I'm not quite sure why that we ever did that, or why. it
Well,
did, but
Evidently, I can't answer that positively, but I bet you legislation, you know, that, like, one time the mill and elevator up in Grand Forks got like a mill from every county. And of course, they finally profit and it went away, you know. So I think that's why,
Oh, okay, so it's until they finally reach to a point where they can profit.
yeah, I
then
think
they
so.
can- Then they
Then
can't do it anymore.
They can't do it
Yeah.
anymore, and I think that's what, educated guess, I think that's what happened there
I
at
think it's-
Southwest,
yeah, because Ladina couldn't kind of give me a
straight in.
confirmation
Yeah.
either.
Must've
Okay.
been one of
I'm
those pass
assuming they have enough funding now where they don't need you.
Extra help.
Oh, yeah, just look at your Southwest water bill and
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're sitting okay.
you're sitting fine. You're kind of going, why? Oh,
Well, I guess if we didn't do it last year and they didn't say anything.
yeah, it's good to know.
And like you said, you called her.
I
she's
did, I
like,
reached out to
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it in the budget as zero?
yes,
Zeros.
sir, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Should we have the gentleman just come down and sign it?
Yeah. I think that's for our
I realize that. but-
Yeah. Marv, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I want to ask the board, I said I didn't have any comments, but I do want to bring up one thing. One of the questions that was asked reminded me. We haven't budgeted, and I brought this up before, and it was voted down, but I want to mention it to the board that we still have not budgeted for tax and financial software, which we promised to have it in effect by January of 2023. And I'd like to see that still be put on the budget. And just for information to the board members, for reminding, I did make a motion to that effect, and it was denied in the past.
If I recall in the past, you were thinking of using ARPA monies for that, or was that?
I guess, first blush, yes, I would say that we would dedicate ARPA money for that. doesn't mean it would have to be that. If ARPA money is all into the general fund, it could just be a general fund expense. Just like they did with the state ARPA money for the township roads, they just put it into the township. We're not keeping track of it specifically. But that would be
One's only got 200.
something we were written up for, and we actually wrote a signed letter saying that we would do that. And it's still not in the budget, so
So if we put the expense in the budget, would we be looking for a revenue for offsetting of it,
well,
or?
you'd have to raise the mills, yes, absolutely. And I
Oh.
would suggest that you'd have to put almost, I'm just guessing, be at least 250,000, be right at that number.
Anyhow, on page 43 here, we do have the ARPA fund, Fund 2104. We have the amount of $287,571. So I don't think they're ear tagged for anything.
What page is that again?
Page 43.
I don't think that's correct.
Well, that's what the number says, page says. And on the end
I
of.
believe 2104 is our siren fund, is that not, am I correct on that?
What page are you on?
43.
43. You'd have to look in the trial balance to see what that is.
Our siren should have more than that.
That is after the allocation to the building and the landfill is what we have left for ARPA.
So that's not siren, right?
No. And once we find out, there's still that funding left at the landfill, that could be, put in towards
Under the
this.
operational one, how much we can use out of that.
Yeah. So I think like you said, Marv, we can put it in and the board can figure out where the funding can be earmarked or used as to just raising some mills. Because there is some funding here. And naturally, we ain't gonna have this done by January 1 anyhow. We're lucky we'll have it done by next year by January 1.
If we don't budget it as saying we're going to do it, it's never going to happen.
Well, I think part of it, we were waiting to see what the treasurer and the auditor and everybody felt was a good program that would fit best for everybody. too.
Right.
But
Was one thing we were looking at.
the same answer, I guess, Liza, it sounds simplistic, but it needs to be budgeted so that when they do come up with that we have it in the budget to spend the money for it.
Well, and we have 287 in the 2104.
It's not listed as an expense anyplace in our budget.
So we could list it as an expense, but.
Right.
There's, I'm just wondering if, if we don't list a corresponding revenue, I don't have a problem with that. I know some people probably will, but,
Right.
I agree that it should be as an expense.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, yeah, or else it may not happen.
Right.
Right.
We
It's
need
not,
to have a location for that to be tracked and to be at.
it's not budgeted.
So Samantha, what would be the easiest place to put that as an expense? Would it be in the general fund?
I believe that, yeah, we're gonna have to take that out of the general fund from, we have like a software. Yeah, so
Software technology, is that what you said, Tom?
since,
I don't know what it's labeled, but I know there is a technology, for sure, there is a technology.
Under in the general fund, right?
since that software is
And I would think that's where it would go, right?
Right.
several offices.
So,
Page
one or,
105, there's a technology automation, it's under the general, computer maintenance, software and services.
okay,
There's nothing listed in those expenses, but page 105 of the expense, AS 400 machines.
okay, yeah,
Under miscellaneous, it's where we have like our social security, and then there's computer supplies, computer maintenance, and software and services, so. That would be page 49. Yeah. 49066.
You said the other one was page 49?
I knew it was something with a six.
You said 49, right, Sam?
Yeah, page 49 in your expenditure report.
So the software and services, the 44.5?
Yeah, 445 line item, we should put it there.
Yeah, you don't wanna, on page 105, you definitely don't want that, that's social security.
Well, 49 says social security
Yeah,
too.
social security's on 49.
No. Page 49, that's a general fund, 1001. It has a,
Oh, I see what you're saying, the fund,
Yeah.
1001.
Right in
You're talking the fund 2930 when you
Correct.
say social security, gotcha,
Right.
gotcha. Yeah, the page 49 would make more sense.
right,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So 490.66 under 44.5.
Mhm.
And you guys are thinking that
250?
250,000?
well,
I think we probably need to go
I guess
a
I-
tad more yet, right?
I agree with Wayne.
Yeah.
If we have that money in ARPA, we're gonna have to vote on it regardless.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
And
I'm-
if we show it in the general fund, it is gonna raise our mills,
mhm.
unless you vote on it and then we show that as a
Well, you take
transfer in from the ARPA
287,000
account.
divided by 52. What is our valuation?
52,
Oh.
332?
333.
Yeah, close enough.
That's 5.5 mils.
Like I said, unless you guys vote on it and make a motion and vote on it, that we transfer in from the ARPA, if that's where you guys would like that amount of.
Is that ARPA money figured in anywhere else as far as revenues and stuff, or is it just,
That's just what's left in that ARPA account after the allocation.
but it was not
But we
transferred
didn't
into
earmark
anything?
it or put it in anywhere else?
No.
So what I'm getting, or what I'm gathering is that it wouldn't have to be a taxed portion because it's not being used in the revenue side of our budget in 23, correct? Okay, if you're not transferring it to anything to help balance anything,
Right.
Basically, you don't have other expenses on the expense side that are now gonna have to be funded some way else by doing this transfer. Because that ARPA amount isn't for any other expenses right now.
It's gonna have to be a decision on that it comes directly into that general fund to be paid for to the software.
right, but
And-
there's no tax revenue, it's not used in any other part of the budget for a revenue source, it's not included in.
Correct.
What I'm getting at is if we earmark that expense and we have that fund that's not being used within the budget, then I don't see why we would need to increase our revenues.
To the best of my knowledge, the ARPA money was deposited into the general fund. No? Right,
2104.
2104? Okay,
But I guess I would like to do it as two separate motions. I'd like to do one as the expense, and then if there's a question or a motion for revenue, we could do that separately. Cause it's, I mean, I think it's two different things. I mean, we can agree to disagree, but, I totally agree that we should have it as a line item in the expense for next year.
so, Mr.
And
Chair,
then
go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I just wanna make sure ARPA monies have to be used by 2024, right?
Have to be, I believe you have to be assigned, or dedicated.
Assigned, okay,
Yeah.
alright, I just wanna make sure we don't run into not being able to get it complete, and then,
Right.
Oh, we had 2 years, I think we can,
I would hope we would then. Right, just wanna make sure.
yeah.
Okay,
All right.
Marv?
Mr. Chairman and board members, I make a motion that we add expense item for tax and financial software to our general fund, the value of $280,000.
Okay, motion by Marv, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Liza. Any discussion on the motion to add the expense item for financial software of $280,000 to the budget?
So we basically have two avenues to go. Either we can use those funds, or we can raise the mills to cover those funds. Is that
Right.
pretty well right?
But this motion's just to put it in
Yeah.
the expense.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
just
just-
putting it in right now,
Yeah.
and then we'll decide how we.
Well, yeah, and I don't know, you know, sometimes the new board would probably, that as they go down the road, will understand if they can swing this or swing that from us today, I don't know exactly. You earmark those funds and then something happens and they, well, why did they do that, you know?
Mhm.
So I don't know which way to go on that, if we should mill it or use that, but that's for later discussion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Seeing none, Marv,
Aye.
Liza,
Aye.
Wayne,
How would I,
all vote aye, that motion passes. Is there any question or how we wanna do it on the revenue side? I guess kinda what Wayne was alluding to, we could
Just
either
leave it.
earmark it or.
leave
we
it to
could-
the new board to figure out
or-
how they wanna go about it, if they wanna use
Mhm.
those funds, or if they, well, we can't raise mills.
I was gonna say, the
Right.
problem is we can't raise bills when
Yeah.
the new board is here.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
We have to decide.
So what do you think, Marv?
There's just a question in the back of my mind, and I know Dawn's answered this already, and I'm not,
Don't, she's trying to drink some water, my God.
and, in the back of my mind, the ARPA money is already included in the general fund. But it's been stated today definitely that it is not. Okay,
Okay,
well, if it's in 2104,
Right.
it is in 2104,
That's what the
that's been
sheet,
verified.
that's what the sheet
If I had a
showed.
druther, I would, to move from one fund to another takes board approval.
Right.
Wayne, you asked what I would prefer to do. I would take the ARPA money and move it.
Okay.
So would we move that today, or would we, it wouldn't have to be part of the budget, I guess I don't know if we would technically move it today, because if we're not.
If that's what we choose to do, it doesn't have to be today. If we
Correct.
change the meals, it has to be done today.
Yeah,
Correct.
right, right.
And if we add it as an expenditure, it's gonna change the mills.
I was gonna say, I think that's.
Right
what
now,
Sam
it
was
already,
trying to say.
already does. Yep, we already voted. It does change the mills unless we,
Change.
unless we transfer the money in there.
Right,
Oh,
yep, so we'd have to order the transfer today in order for the mills not to change,
Correct.
correct?
Do you know what our mill levy was on the preliminary budget for the general fund? We can't exceed that. That's why I'm asking that.
We
Right now,
were really close to 60.
We were real
Yeah.
right
We were
under
at
six.
59
I
something.
can go grab the preliminary budget.
the reason I'm saying we're at 53.15, if we add 5.5 mills to that, we're gonna be really close to that
Let me go grab that.
max. And it probably isn't gonna make any difference, but it would just be information. Liza, you can remind me here, or anybody can, but I think you might be. There are, pardon me?
General fund mill levy was approved for the preliminary budget at 58.73.
So if we take 5315 and add 5.5 mills, we're gonna be right at that, we're gonna exceed what we had for the preliminary budget, so we can't do
We
it.
can't do that. Yep.
Okay, the question I started to ask you, Liza. You know, are we allowed, and I believe we are, to use that American Rescue Fund money for tax and financial software?
I thought we had found out we were able to, but I'm not 100% sure.
Either am I. And we also have, well, COVID money's all spoken for, it's already in the general fund, so that's already accounted for, so we can't use
Right.
that.
Yeah, but I thought this was the ARPA one where it wasn't as regulated as the other one.
Well,
So I think it was the one that you could,
well, the state ARPA is already in the township roads, so that's moved out already, so
Okay.
that isn't part of this
so
two
this is the
eighty-seven.
federal ARPA one? Okay.
Does anybody have a direction? Do you wanna do the transfer, or do you wanna?
Well, I wanna do the transfer, the only question in the back of my mind is because of the rules that were attached, I'm quite certain we can use it.
I'm-
I'm
99.
quite certain too,
Yeah.
but like you said, I'm not like 100% on it.
So what if we if we do make a motion and approve to transfer it and then find out later,
Well, it's just one of
we
those
would just
things.
have to amend the budget and maybe strike that expense.
Or you'd have to find
Find
some
Have to
revenue
find a
revenue
different
source,
revenue
Another
source.
source of revenue somehow.
which would be a
Okay.
loan or whatever. I mean, there's lots of options.
True, yeah, it's not like you're
One less,
only have one area.
one less overlay.
I'm
Might
writing down a
happen.
I
motion.
drove down
Okay.
it. Well, I don't know if you want a motion, but, my,
He's working on one.
okay, there you go, Marv.
Write it out. Okay.
Thank you, Marv. I didn't know what he was writing on over there.
Well, there's gonna be a contingency due to that snafu that we're not sure, that's why I'm reading it up.
And like, again, as I mentioned at the board, if there's some of that sitting in that landfill for that closure, or for that reliner, if that can come back, let's use that also,
And can I just ask, so if you guys, if we have to amend the budget, that means we have to amend this possible transfer and the expenditure? Because that ultimately is gonna raise the mills, and if we can't find
That's correct.
a revenue source, then I'm just
Yeah.
Right,
making sure
yeah,
down
they go
the road
hand in
that
hand.
that's the, yeah,
You'd have to do both,
right.
and then we'd
Yeah.
be okay.
Yeah,
But-
okay.
And that'd be for next year.
Correct, 'cause that would be an amendment.
Amendment for two, yeah,
Correct.
if you can't
2023.
find the funding.
If ARPA says, no, you
Yeah.
can't use it for
Yeah, yeah, okay.
tax software,
Yeah.
for the software.
And from what I gather in previous conversations throughout the building, I believe that that was one of the things that was looked into for the rest of the ARPA funds, if I'm not correct.
Mm-hmm.
has been discussed before, yep. Mhm.
Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion.
All right.
Let them change the wording before you start writing, right?
Oh, okay.
I wrote it down for that. I move to transfer $280,000 from Fund 2104 to the general fund to cover new tax and financial software contingent upon approval to use ARPA funds for this use.
Sounds good? Okay.
Is that what we discussed?
Yep.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'll read it real slow.
Do you wanna just give it to me?
Tear it off, yeah.
Make
Okay.
it easier.
Motion by Marv, is there a second?
Yeah, right,
Thank you.
yep. Mhm.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll make a second.
All right, seconded by Liza. Any discussion?
I'd like to have the motion read back to us
Sure.
prior to the vote.
To move to transfer $280,000 from account 2104 to general fund to cover new tax and financial software contingent upon approval to use ARPA funds for this use.
Okay. Instead of saying account, it should say fund 2104, not account 2104.
It doesn't, it just says from 2104.
Just put down fund in front of 2104,
Okay.
please.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Marv? Marv?
Aye.
Liza?
Aye.
Wayne?
I'll vote aye.
All vote aye. That motion passes.
Yes, you may keep that.
Thank you.
It'll be in the minutes, so I'll get a copy of what I wrote.
Yeah. I can give it back to you after I'm done with it.
Yeah, that'll work too.
Okay, any other questions, comments on the budget?
Just, I'm pretty sure I got that, clarifying, if by chance it turns out that ARPA can't be used, then you can't actually go back and raise the mills taxes. So either you strike it completely, or you find
Other
another revenue source.
source of-
like-
Correct.
Like an overlay. Okay, got it.
It's kind of like your personal finances, if you can't afford it,
Yep.
you gotta find a different revenue source.
Mhm.
You have to give something
It's
else up.
that job.
In my house, you have to give something else up,
Yeah.
depending on what's most important.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other budget questions?
So then, just to clarify kind of some, right, our mills would be like, on this sheet here, it's 1.1.
Yeah, 101,
101
108.
or 08, then that's current, right?
This is the current, yes.
Yeah.
If there's,
I think it's very good.
Yeah.
if there's no other questions or changes to the budget, I would entertain a motion to approve the final budget.
How do I word that? So move.
I guess it would be a motion to approve the budget as currently presented.
The 2023 budget
The
as
2023.
presented,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, I'll move that we currently accept the updates that's before us today for the 2023 budget, final budget.
Okay, motion by Wayne, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Liza. Any discussion?
Yes, I'm gonna have to, this is where I wanted to make some comments. I want to thank you guys for putting that tax and financial software addition to the budget. Really appreciate that. That was one of my objections. So I don't need to go there. Thank you again. I want to thank everybody for all the time and effort that went into preparing this budget, including our auditor. She did very many reports, answered a lot of emails, lots of questions, and I want to thank him for all the hard work that went into it.
Sleepless nights,
I
unfortunately.
don't, I'm not sure if the public realizes all the stress that gets
Oh.
involved in the interaction that occurs to get everything to come together. So I want to tell everybody, thank you.
Yeah,
That being said, I'm still going to oppose this budget myself. And a couple of reasons. One is that we're still using non-normal revenue to subsidize our general fund. And we're using some COVID money in there, and it's, to the best of my knowledge, it's over $700,000. Doing that raises the amount of money that gets transferred from 2022 into 2023, which shows our 2023 is having lots of money that it never got through normal sources. So that's why I'm opposed to that. There's a, let's just see what these other ones are. So that's one of my reasons. With the coal and, what's our reserve on our general fund right now? That's on page 8. No, it's on page 5. 3.
Page
3.
three.
Okay, another reason I'm opposing this is that we voted months ago to approve a 30% reserve in some of our funds, specifically the road fund and the general fund. We did do that for the road fund. We did not do that for the general fund. The reason I want to see that up to 30% is we're allowed to go up to 75%. I did do a survey with other counties, and 30% was, the way I read all the emails that I got back, was strongly suggested. We have some building improvements that need to be met this year that we may or may not do. I believe we will, but if we don't have enough reserve, if something would happen, we might be short of money. We voted to approve 30% on that months ago, and our budget only reflects 15%. One of the reasons that it's at 15% was to keep us underneath the threshold that we're allowed by the state. With our coal reserves and federal assistance that we've been getting, our county should be flush. We should not be having to worry and raise taxes. No, this one here, our budget says we're not raising taxes, but that's because we're using federal assistance programs to subsidize our budget. Having the high tax rates that we do discourages retirees from staying in our county. And I've received that walking down the street and phone call, only twice though. So those are the reasons that I am going to, there are a couple small reasons, which is bookkeeping. We have funds that have different names depending on which report. Hopefully our financial software will correct that. And we have expenses being listed falsely. And they're high dollar expenses. So because those corrections haven't been taken care of, and mainly by subsidizing our budget and not having a 30% reserve, I'm going to oppose this budget. I want 30% in that general fund. I really do.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Seeing none, Wayne,
I vote aye.
Liza,
Aye.
Mark,
Nay.
all vote aye. That motion passes. We have approved budget. It's the only thing on the agenda for this meeting. So I'll close this meeting. And we have another meeting at 10:30. So we'll be out of session until then.
I believe your final email